for those who haven't been introduced to this Fox Sports lawsuit, I think a lot of people read the memes online, very funny stuff. And there's a lot of people who may have not heard about it at all. I said this to Jake before the show. I truly don't know how big this has gotten online, just because I think everyone was truly tuned into football, to be completely honest. So there's people who fully miss this, I think. And then, I mean, people digest their news from sports shows, and sports like TV shows aren't going to be talking about this, I imagine, right?
I think so. I think they're going to wait to cover it. I think I'm going to kind of talk about it today. I'm under the assumption people don't know about it. I think that's
I
where
don't
I'm
think so.
No. I think if you're in online, you may have seen something come up, like if you're really plugged in. But I think the mix of when it's breaking over a very like packed football weekend, when I'm Googling like who's in, like what does this mean for seating? To sneak an allegation in there, but two, this very much stems around Skip Bayless, which we'll get into, who no longer works for the company. So I think there's going to be some separation of like we're talking about is the Fox Sports scandal, which I think it could turn into, but I think there may be some time in separation as it's like, well, we don't have to talk about it immediate because Skip's not there anymore.
Well, he's not the biggest issue in the story, which
I
we'll talk
agree.
about. He's certainly a contributing factor. The way I was introduced to the story, again, I didn't get like a notification from like a sports app or anything saying, hey, this thing happened. I saw two things on Twitter. I saw one, someone tweeting a GIF of something and be like, oh, Joy Taylor's definitely like getting it from everybody everywhere at Fox Sports. And then the other thing was Joy Taylor slept with Acho. Like he should, like out of everybody, Acho, which tells me the algorithm is really built for me because boy, I hate Acho. Once I found out he's in this story, son of a bitch. And we need more Acho in this story at some point. For anyone who's, let me take the stand, or let me grill the people on the stand. I need to talk about Acho. But is there anything else you'd like to say before we introduce this? And we're just going to walk through the actual lawsuit, which is also a first here at Flurry Sports. We're doing legal shit today, which behind the scenes, Jake and I have been doing for a couple weeks now.
Yeah, we're getting legal over here to end and to start the year. Just welcome to the show. I think if as folks join, we're gonna cover the big things today. So I know this is what we do, which is we start with the things that we're like, why isn't anyone talking about this? But I promise we've got some stuff coming with coaches and those changes and teams that are locked into draft spots and teams who are in the playoffs. We're going to cover all that good stuff. The only other context I'm going to give, just to not rebut something you're saying, but to give context, I agree with you. So as folks listen to all the names involved and maybe give some context to everyone not named Skip Bayless. But I just did a quick Google search. All the articles, and there's a lot breaking today, so maybe this will get bigger as we talk about it, this is one title from CBS News, but they're all worded the same, which is former Fox Sports host Skip Bayless harassed hairstylist and offered her $1.5 million for sex. Lawsuit alleges.
That's the biggest story.
No, agreed. I'm with you. Like, there's other pieces that I want folks to tune into more, so listen to all the nuances here today. But I do want to give credit where it's due to. I think this is going to be a Skip Bayless story, and if folks read into it more, they will. But I have a feeling that it benefits Fox to paint it that way as well.
He's gone.
Yeah. So, and so are all the problems. Nothing here. Exactly. Etched into the foundation. So let's hear about it, Zach. Walk us through it.
Okay. So let's jump into this. Can you see this fine from your end, Jake? Okay.
You bet.
So just to introduce this story, Miss Faraji, this is going to be the hairdresser. I'm just going to call her the hairdresser just in case I'm pronouncing her name wrong. Bringing forth this because she worked at Fox for over a decade, endured misogynistic, racist, ableist workplace where executives and talent were allowed to abuse their workers.
Allegedly.
This is all alleged. Some of this, by the way, this whole thing, there's some like cartoon villains, and then she seems like everyone here seems so exaggerated. I can't tell what's fully true, but we shall
Which is how lawsuits
see.
start. Yeah, 100%.
It and her biggest thing on this lawsuit, I think, to be honest,
Mhm.
the biggest story is about racism, sleeping your way to the top, offering money to have sex, sexual battery is in this as well. However, the majority of this lawsuit's actually like a class action on behalf of the employees for
Mhm.
this stuff, failing to pay overtime wages, minimum wages, yada yada yada. So the interesting stuff, the fun stuff to talk about in terms of getting clicks and stuff isn't the biggest part of this lawsuit, to be completely honest.
Mhm.
We don't need to talk about that stuff. It's just like they're not paying people's wages. They are slowly taking away people's hours so they can systematically fire them. All of that is not legal. And that is something that supposedly Fox is doing. So that is interesting. So the main parties here of this lawsuit, Faraji again is a hairdresser who worked for Fox up until pretty recently, since Skip Bayless's departure,
Yeah.
ironically enough. Fox, yada yada. Charlie Dixon, he's going to be referred to as Mr. Dixon in this. He's the executive vice president of content at FS1. So basically, he's in charge of the shows. He's in charge of who's on the shows and stuff like that. Skip Bayless, you know him, you love him for Skip and Shannon for his take. Everybody knows who Skip Bayless is, and it's hard to separate Skip from the TV Skip. And as we're reading this, I'm not sure if there is a separation, so we shall
Yeah.
see. Joy Taylor, big part of this lawsuit. So she is a host at Fox. We'll find out why she is a host at Fox pretty soon.
Co-host of Undisputed, along with Skip and formerly Shannon Sharp.
And
Also a
speak.
part of this. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Shannon is in this a little bit as well. Not a lot. No wrongdoing on Shannon's part, it seems like.
No.
Okay.
I do think Shannon's gonna be the one that blows this up.
He should have.
Yeah.
He was live last night with Ocho for his nightly show, and I was just hoping he would say something, but he did not.
Yeah.
To my knowledge. Okay. Here we go. Factual background. Number one, when she was hired to work at Fox, she started in 2003. Yada, yada, yada. She's been doing hair. She's doing makeup. She did it on a part-time basis in 2012. She did stuff for some people, not very needed for this. Just know this all started her relationship with Fox in 2003, and it continued. She
Long
became
tenure.
full-time. Right. She became full-time in 2016. Okay. Mr. Dixon so the executive gives Joy Taylor Undisputed as a reward for having sex with them. Nice headline, great headline. March 2016, the hairdresser met with Joy Taylor, who recently moved from Miami to LA for this opportunity with Fox. Yeah. She would be filling in when Talent was sick, so she didn't have like a full-time job yet there. Joy told the hairdresser she was recently wed, but her husband remained in Miami, so she was lonely in LA. Interesting thing to say. Joy Taylor then befriended the hairdresser. May 2016, Joy Taylor asked the hairdresser to meet for a drink, and when the hairdresser arrived, Joy Taylor was with an older man who the hairdresser did not know at that point, but it was Mr. Dixon, the vice president of content. When Mr. Dixon went to buy them another round of spicy margaritas, again, this seems like a cartoon. The hairdresser asked who he was. Joy Taylor said, just a friend. Following that night, whenever Joy Taylor and the hairdresser would meet, Mr. Dixon would arrive with her or leave with her. And she suspected the pair were sleeping together. And she was concerned because Joy Taylor was recently married. June 2016, the hairdresser noticed the Mr. Dixon at work in the elevator, and she's like, oh my God, this is the guy who always buys us drinks in the elevator. He's here. Again, very clueless, very cartoonish, not sure. Joy Taylor quickly silenced her, explaining who he was. Hairdresser was alarmed and warned Joy Taylor that the relationship would be unsafe. 2017, the hairdresser noticed the Mr. Dixon at work in the elevator, and she's like, oh my God, this is the guy who always buys us drinks in the elevator. He's here. Again, very clueless, very cartoonish, not sure. Joy Taylor quickly silenced her, explaining who he was. Hairdresser was alarmed and warned Joy Taylor that the relationship would be unsafe. July 2016, word spread that there was going to be a new show. It's going to be a very big deal, and they needed someone with significant TV experience to star alongside Skip and Shannon Sharp. This became undisputed, obviously, and it was a surprise that Fox decided to go Joy Taylor, who was a bartender, very little TV experience. Apparently, Skip Bayless did not want Joy Taylor on the show, but Mr. Dixon was adamant that she would star. And then he arranged a dinner for Skip and Joy, where Joy was being a slut, acting very slutty, provocative, trying to seduce Mr. Bayless, supposedly. And he still didn't really want her. Reluctantly, Skip agreed to do a favor for Mr. Dixon, apparently. 2016, there was a dinner between the hairdresser with Joy Taylor and her husband, and then Mr. Dixon and his wife. And then apparently Joy Taylor's husband found out or felt like, oh, there's something weird sexual happening here, found out that there were actually things going on, and then they divorced. So that was August 2016, pretty quick there. So they were barely married, essentially. And then at this point, then immediately after that, Joy Taylor requested that the hairdresser would do her hair at Fox, and Skip Bayless also requested her to do his hair. So that's the setup of everything, okay?
Yeah.
Any questions, any thoughts then at this point?
The only thing I'll clarify is just, which is good. We've had a lot of folks join us as you started giving that. So I'm just going to repeat some of the key things for folks as you join in. We're talking about the Fox Sports scandal today, so you can give that a Google. But Zach's just introducing us so far to the background context of Faraji, Miss Faraji, who's the complainant in the case. We're going to refer to her as the hairdresser just to make sure we're pronouncing everything correctly. But I think those are the big pieces. I think the timeline, as you set it up, is important because it's hard to talk about anything legal like this that doesn't sound like we're either endorsing or undermining a certain person's case. But right now I'm just trying to figure it all out. So I would also underline that, like, as we get into the other allegations that you're about to read into, this timeline is important because you nailed it at the start. This is coming out now because a group of folks were terminated because Skip doesn't have his show anymore.
Right.
And, you know, some of the big allegations, including the big payment, happened years ago. And so that timing is important to recognize because it seems systemic. It also seems that this is all highlighted by it's coming to light because the show's not continuing.
Correct. Yeah. Skip, bad guy in this. Skip also kept people's jobs at the same time. So, yeah.
Because he's gone more than moral good. But yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Skip's never really been a moral good, to be fair. But yeah, including in here. Okay. So now we're going to January 2017. Mr. Dixon gropes the hairdresser after putting her on Undisputed to do Joy Taylor's hair. So Joy Taylor had her birthday party. A hairdresser and other employees were invited. And Mr. Dixon, as usual, it says, was heavily drinking, buying drinks for everybody on Fox's card, blustering that everything purchased was on Fox's dime. So, again, as cartoonish as possible, this guy's just an asshole, drunk weirdo. So she was standing near the bar. She's going to go get a drink, or she had a drink. Mr. Dixon comes up, his arm around her lower back, asked how she was doing, if she was having fun, if she wanted a tequila shot. She was uncomfortable, said no thank you. He put his hand lower, started rubbing her body and her ass, and then she was mortified, thought quickly, and faked an incoming call to escape the situation, I guess. She didn't know what to do. She went to talk to Joy Taylor because she knew she was sleeping with him, so she thought she'd be on her side somehow. And then Joy Taylor said to get over it, explaining that she only had a job because of Mr. Dixon, and then thus the hairdresser only had a job because of Joy. So that's essentially this situation, just saying, hey, get over it. You just have to deal with it. He can do what he wants, essentially. 7 years later, in 2023, Miss Peretti, which is the first time she's mentioned in this, it seems like she has some sort of authority at Fox in terms of she does and she doesn't. I think she's in an authority position, but she doesn't actually have any power, is what it feels like. She did not like the hairdresser at all. And that's been her default through this entire thing. She just is a bad person and doesn't like the hairdresser per the lawsuit. That's all you need to know about this part, in my opinion. Okay, D. Mr. Dixon gets rid of a female talent for refusing to have sex with him. So several years into the hairdresser's tenure at Fox, a female talent member who's anonymous was hired the hairdresser to do her hair. She said she would no longer be at Fox because Mr. Dixon said she would need to have sex with them in order to renew the contract. She refused. And then the anonymous person conveyed that Mr. Dixon was doing this to other people there as well. Should warn Joey Taylor to be careful. And another host recently reported Mr. Dixon. We do not know who that is. Also, by the way, Marcellus Wiley is going to be talking about a bunch of this stuff too.
Yeah.
I imagine he's going to have some insight. I'm wondering where his role plays in this. It'll be interesting. Okay, so following the lunch, then the hairdresser calls Joy, said exactly what the anonymous person said. Joy Taylor said, no one gives a fuck about that person or the person who talked about Mr. Dixon. So Joy Taylor's remark appeared accurate as no actions were taken. Nice. That's all that is. Now we go to Skip. Skip has joined the story. Skip begins to give the hairdresser lingering hugs and kisses on the cheek while putting his body against hers and pressing on her breasts. Oh, Skip. Okay, so after reporting after the talk show host reporting of Mr. Dixon fell on deaf ears, Mr. Bayless began requesting that the hairdresser would give him a haircut once a week. So yeah, that's her job. So she did it essentially. However, as the haircuts began, Skip began finding excuses to touch her. He would give her lingering hugs with each haircut, putting his body against her own, touching her breasts. He then began to kiss her on the cheek. She was uncomfortable with the physical contact and would make excuses to leave right after the haircuts with excuses such as, I need to pick up my son from school. Here's my question. Is he getting haircuts at night?
I think he's getting haircuts whenever he wants.
But like he's only on in the mornings. Yeah. Wouldn't he be getting haircuts before he goes on?
So I'm really reading into this in the answer to this, but I do think it's interesting because one of the allegations is failure to pay overtime. So I think part of this is an allegation that basically Skip is forcing her to spend more time with him.
I don't think so. I think the overtime thing, as it is outlined, I don't think has anything to do with her. It's a class action for other employees.
Other folks as well. Okay. But yeah, one way or another, it sounds like he's getting night haircuts,
or she's terrible at excuses. And that should be brought up as well. Because if it's like 9 a.m., she's like, I need to get my son. Yeah. I don't know. Red flag. Why? Someone let me know. Would you get a haircut at night? Because that doesn't.
I think, but they also work at the Buck Crack of Dawn. That's part of this, right? Like they're a morning show, so you get your haircuts at different times.
I guess. Okay, so this is how I know it's part of this is for sure real. So in 2017, the hairdresser was giving Skip a haircut. He said that she was voluptuous, and she's English is not her first language, so she didn't know what that meant. When she asked Skip what it meant, he seemed amused and told her to figure it out, which is okay. This happened for sure. That's Skip.
Yeah.
She asked another coworker and was mortified when she found out. Essentially, she was terrified. Turned to her coworker to discuss the situation. They decided that because Skip was powerful and Fox protected powerful people, that she shouldn't do anything. Essentially, she's a single mother who relied on the job to support her son. She felt she had no choice but to keep getting, doing stuff for Skip, yada, yada, yada. This is bad, but honestly not that important to the case. She had her hours. She went on medical leave because she hurt her back. When she was gone, they had to give somebody else hours. When she came back, they couldn't just fire the person they gave hours, so she had less hours. That's how I take that part.
Correct. The only thing I'll add to that section, and maybe we can use that to funnel in a couple other sections that are kind of like that. I would also say a big basis of the case is she's alleging that her and others in the case brought several of this up to HR, and it's just another example of a thing she's alleging HR didn't do anything about. So I think it's
Right.
helpful to the case as someone trying to illustrate a defunct HR department. This is like another example of like HR
Yeah.
falling through.
Yeah, HR is bad. In this, they definitely just ignored whatever she had to say.
Yeah.
This part also, the biggest thing in her case, truly, I think, again, it's the hours stuff.
Yeah.
That's the biggest part of the case, just not the exciting part of the case. So her biggest thing is she talks about how they systematically fire people, but they deem to be an issue or a threat or whatever. But they do that because by like limiting their hours to the point where they become useless, and then they can justify the firing. So saying that her hours were cut is the start of that systematic firing from her point of view, where it's like, okay, they're just reducing how important she is there until they can say, hey, you're not important, you're fired. Not for saying, hey, you know too much information, that's why you're fired. Essentially.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So now, again, this Miss Peretti yelled at her, made fun of her, bullied her. She's just a cartoon villain. Now, a hairdresser remains on Undisputed to do stuff for Joy and Skip, but she's also asked to join the Herd, my nemesis. So, summer 2018.
Sorry, that really caught me off guard, but you're right.
Well, it's
correct.
true. Yeah. This is the part of the case that pissed me off. I'm not going to lie. Okay, so 2018, Joy moved from Undisputed to the Herd with Colin Cowherd. So then the hairdresser was asked to do hair for Cowherd as well. So she would do Bayless's hair, do Joy's hair, do Colin Cowherd's hair. And then this is the part is bullshit. So throughout the entire tenure, Colin Cowherd was professional and respectful to the hairdresser and her coworkers. There's nothing bad to say about him.
Okay.
There's nothing bad to say. There's also another part, this fucking lawsuit where it says, during her entire tenure, there is no wrongdoing by Colin Cowherd at Fox. That's not true. He does wrongdoing every day. Maybe not in this case, but we need to frame it correctly.
Yeah, it does.
None?
I did read that, and it goes, it hit me like when, maybe it's because I work with this all the time in my real life job where it's like I'm helping people report things, and it has the vibe of like someone else is involved, and it's like Colin's reading over her shoulders. Like,
Yeah.
hey, can you make sure that this sentence is, I just wanted to be clear. I'm here.
Also, put in there that I didn't mean the Ben Simmons is better than LeBron thing. He was all a joke.
Yeah, true. Hey, by the way, that hit the stream at the same time as this scandal. That's blowing up. Coincidence?
Yeah.
Who knows? But I did. It was interesting how much he emphasized that about Cowherd. But
yeah, whatever. So this is Colin Cowherd's introduction and end in this lawsuit.
Yeah.
Apparently, he's a great guy. Fucking asshole. Okay. Now, this guy. This
legally a great guy.
Legally a great guy. Yeah. This next guy is the worst person.
This dude's the worst. Our boy Bobby Diaz, allegedly terrible dude.
This is insane. So 2019, Bobby Diaz, who is just the person who puts the microphone on people. He mocked the hairdresser for how she pronounced English words and sexualized the way she was eating fruit. She just didn't respond, essentially. And then that evil lady came and yelled at her, didn't do anything. Okay, so there's information that this microphone guy openly gropes, harasses, and is inappropriate with women at Fox. He has not been fired because of his role in supplying cocaine to Fox employees. And even after, which we need to talk about this more, he had an incident where he removed his pants on live camera.
Yeah.
What? Is this a known thing? Like, let's talk about that a little more. Open this up. So he just gives people cocaine. He took his pants off. He touches people, but he's cool. And then then after the lawsuit was known, various employees told Diaz, and he mocked the situation. He said that the hairdresser was stupid, very childish. He said he didn't care. He said, who gives a shit? Boasted that he would never be fired. guess what? I think that might be the most replaceable person here. I think he's gone. This guy can't be that safe.
Yeah. Also accused in here of one of several people who mocks the plaintiff Faraji for her English, also sexualizing the way she ate fruit.
Yep, I said that.
I know,
So,
but we need to talk about it. I think
this guy is
like,
just a childhood buddy. He's a high school bully.
He's a high school bully and he's a real life criminal. It's crazy. He does all the bad things. I wanted to circle back to the fruit thing only because there's something to, like, if you do that, you're a terrible person. Like, we need to highlight that red flag more. If you sexualize the way I eat anything, get away from me.
It's just weird.
I can't eat a banana in your presence. Fuck you.
This is the guy who's going to get fired from Fox in order to soothe this over. Like, problem eliminated. Diaz is gone. Oh, God. I wish. Because Skip is gone, so that problem's out the door. Joy's going to stay because Joy is Joy. And then this guy who just takes his pants off and gives people cocaine, we can find another person to do that. So he is going to be fired immediately.
By the way, rooting for that. If that is true, hope it's true. Yeah.
True. Joy again uses her sexuality to get onto a show. So in February 2020, met the hairdresser for lunch. When she arrived, she was with another man, this time Emmanuel Acho. Fuck yeah. Acho's joined the party. So hairdresser did not know who Acho was, but could tell the two were romantically involved. Here's another thing. She's been there for what at this point? Like 15 years? She doesn't know anybody. Every time she sees a new person or someone who's been there, she's clueless at who this person is. She knows all the talent, but has no idea who Acho is. She knows all the talent, but has no idea who's in charge of the talent. At some point, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
She's not this clueless. There's no shot. That's all I'll say about that. Few months after meeting Acho at lunch, hairdresser noticed him in the hallway, asked Joy if Acho also worked at Fox, which he was at Fox. Good job connecting the two. Confirmed and said that she wanted Acho to eventually recommend her for the show Speak for Yourself. The hairdresser was alarmed, said that Joy shouldn't sleep with them because she's sleeping with Mr. Dixon already. And then Joy said not to worry about it. She explained Joy is also now powerful. Once Mr. Dixon is no longer useful, she's going to follow through on her plan to tell the company that he forced himself on her. She would not allow herself to be forced out like Mr. Dixon did to other talent. So she was going to try to use Acho for another thing. And then she had a nefarious plan to get the other executive kicked, I guess, supposedly. Apparently, Joy Taylor's is evil genius.
Well, yes, and it's also showing in here, not that you aren't saying this, but I'm going to just take a moment to highlight it here. This Dixon guy, if these allegations are true, is one of the actual, like, Jesus Christ, what are we doing? So
bad.
Because he almost gets mentioned. I think he does get mentioned less than Joy Taylor in this, because I think Joy Taylor and the complaint have more interactions for sure.
Yeah. For sure.
But everything goes back to him. So I'm going to take a moment to be like, frick that guy. Two, like, not only evil genius, but it's also striking to me that it's like, it seems like the context of these conversations, the many conversations that are cited between Joy Taylor and the hairdresser, are like, on one hand, Joy Taylor is like agreeing that the allegations are happening and also the recipient of bad behavior, but is almost like, but it's what happens. Like, you have to ride out on it. So I think that's also so troubling to me, that it's like the culture is obviously seems to be so prevalent, if these allegations are true, that it's like, well, yeah, I mean, we can agree it's happening, but time to make the most of it, you know?
Joy Taylor's also just the Will Ferrell character in Austin Powers, where he can't lie 3 times in a row. You just have to ask the same question over and over. Because Joy Taylor, it's like you see her with the guy and she's like, just a friend. Then all of a sudden you ask at work, she's like, caught me. Okay, so this is what's happening. Like, at every point. It's,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And it's also, this is skipping ahead, but I think it's a good point to bring this point up of like, I don't think it's going to be the thing that gets noted, but it's another thing that strikes me as true in this because it's so consistent is the use of sex as power in this workplace, like
Yeah.
forced or unforced, whatever. Because one of the other things that also strikes me is like, yep, that's Skip. That feels right to me. Is an allegation that as you get into the Skip making money offers, part of the allegations is that Skip also responded with, "Oh, you don't want to sleep with me? You must be sleeping with Shannon."
I know. I know.
And I bring that in here because it's like the answer can't be that she's not sleeping with somebody. It's got to
Correct.
be correct. I mean, everyone in this office is sleeping with one of the male talent. And
Right.
also
Right.
strikes me that he's paranoid about all the women Shannon is sleeping with, which correct. That feels true at this point.
We'll get into it. The person supposedly who told Skip that she was sleeping with Shannon was Mr. Dixon. He's stirring the
Yeah.
pot all over. And by the
Yeah.
way, apparently this Dixon guy was the first person hired by a former executive or president at Fox Sports
Mhm.
who has been fired for like sexual harassment or assault or something as well. So it seems very systematic. It feels very widespread. Not very surprising. I will just quickly go over this part. She's targeted because of her ethnicity. There's a former host, I believe, who is now already fired. She seems very unhinged. At an informal dinner at Mastro Steakhouse, I'm not sure if you can have an informal dinner there, by the way. Screamed at the hairdresser. Again, there's no context here. Fuck
Yeah.
you, you Persian bitch. So, and then she threatened to kill herself with a glass. So, she has been fired already. Is what it is there. Okay. Hairdresser believes she has cancer, conveys this to Skip in an attempt to stop his advances, only to have him offer her $1.5 million to have sex. Attaboy Skip. Over the years, Skip continued to make advances at her, lingering hugs, kisses on the cheek, and inappropriate comments that he could change her life. Very Skip thing to say. Hairdresser would always make excuses regarding her son, change the subject, make a joke, anything to keep Skip happy and her job safe. 2021 developed issues with her left ovary, thought it could be cancer. Essentially, Skip was still making advances. She said, "Hey, I might have cancer." Skip began rambling because there's cameras everywhere. Said, and she had a child, does not want him. Skip grabbed her by the hands, began kissing him, offered her $1.5 million to have sex. She made an excuse to leave. Approximately 1 week later, Skip made another advance, and she said, "Stop, Skip, you have a wife." Skip said, "Aren't you Muslim? Doesn't your dad have 3 to 4 wives?" She said, "Hey, my father's dead." Skip looked taken aback, and she made an excuse to leave. Again, this is just a sitcom at this point.
Yeah.
Interesting.
This is a
her job is,
Skylar plot line on Breaking Bad.
it is. It is. Or this is just One Tree Hill somehow. She made the hairdresser's job is threatened because she does not sleep with Skip. So now these are text messages here. 2022, April 12th. Skip says, "I'm good today," meaning he wasn't going to come up for hair and makeup. Next day, he texts her, "Not comfortable coming down there. Just do what you need to do. It's okay." She asked him what's wrong. He said, "Same stuff, worse." He's acted like a child.
Mm-hmm.
Concerned about her job, she went to go to Skip's dressing room, see if everything was okay. Skip answered the door. Before she could speak, he began angrily accusing her of fucking Shannon Sharp. She tried to explain that she did not have any feelings towards Sharp, did not sleep with him or any other talent at Fox. Before she could speak, Skip demanded that she come to his car after the show. She says she could not come sit in his car because that's appropriate. Skip got mad and then he left. The following day, right? Yes, the following day, Skip texts her, "If you're distracted tomorrow, I'll wait till Monday, but I can't keep doing this." She said that she was confused. Skip said, "Trust me, I'm far more confused." She explained over text that she's not
That's
sleeping
such
with
some
Sharp.
guy bullshit. Can we just, like, as men, can we say that, like, that's guy? We all look back on moments like that. We're like, man, I'm the worst. That's such dude bull crap. I know I'm hurting you, but think of what it's like for me to be doing it.
Skip, here's the thing. So this feels so real because it feels so Skip. If
Yeah.
it's not real, they got his tone perfectly. He's just like, wait a minute, you're fucking this guy. At one point
Yeah.
in this lawsuit, he calls Shannon Sharp his mortal enemy. You violated
Correct.
my trust with my mortal enemy.
Yeah.
Which I did. Either Skip gets into character perfectly because he's his debate foe,
Yeah.
or he really hated Shannon Sharp. I don't know. It's very interesting. But okay, he says, I can't keep doing this. Day after that, Skip texted her, do you still want to do the haircut or just move on? She said she doesn't want to move on from her job. She wants to continue doing his hair. Day after that, he called her. She did not pick up the phone because she was scared. She called him 10 minutes later. On the call, Skip again angrily accused her of fucking Shannon Sharp, said he could tell from her body language that she was doing it. And then she tried to explain that she was kind to all talent and laughs and engages in conversation. Asked if he was yelling at her because she refused to go to his car. Skip said, don't talk to me like that. Then Skip said she heard her talk to Sharp about her vagina, which obviously people do when they're hooking up. They talk about that. Mm-hmm. She said that's not true. She was embarrassed and angry. Even if she had been dating Shannon, which she wasn't, shouldn't matter because she just has a professional relationship with Skip. Day after that, she arrived in the makeup room, small room, as they are talking about. She turned on a recording device, waited for Skip to arrive. Apparently, two of her co-workers were hiding because she knew what was going on. Skip came into the room. Skip knew that the makeup room was always recorded, so he clearly stated, apparently, this room is bugged, which I assume Skip does every time he walks into any room. And then he said he would hate for her to lose her job, but she can't keep doing a big thing to my arch rival. That's what it was.
This is, by the way, well, Shannon is still at Fox. They are still doing the show together.
Yeah, my arch rival. It's insane. She said that being polite to Shannon's part of her job. He said, bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. I'm calling bullshit on you. So this is just an episode of Undisputed right now.
Yeah, that sucks. Yeah.
I mean, this is awesome. It's just Skip. This is insane.
Yeah.
He said he doesn't want her to lose her job over this, obviously threatening. She responded she wasn't going to lose her job because she's a great hairdresser. He responded, I have love for you. I have for 6 years, and you hurt me, and you are ruining this. She said she's polite to all talent. He implied that if he stopped requesting her, it would affect her job. She said she's scheduled to work every morning. If he would like his hair done, he's welcome to come and do it, essentially. Skip continued to threaten the job, and she's saying he was pressuring her to have sex with them. Certainly seems that way. So a few days later, so that was April 17th. This is now April 21st. Skip asked if she would come to his home to color his hair, which is something she had been doing with Skip's wife there as well. So that's not really out of the ordinary. But she said no, she would no longer be going to his home. Following week, Skip arrived in the makeup room as if nothing happened, but she remained on edge. She was having nightmares about this. We find out later she has PTSD from something we don't know. Oh, it says it right there. So certainly, could be triggering something for sure.
Yeah, let's dive into that section a bit because I think that's going to be the one that gets the most news. There's a lot of stuff to talk about there too. One, again, to highlight, that seems there's also mention in there of I've read in different places that there's mention of her having something recorded. It seems like that comes from this section.
Yep, she said right away when
Yeah.
she walked in the room, she turned on a recording device.
Yeah.
And that's when Skip walked in and said, "This room is bugged."
Correct. So good eye,
Awesome thing
Skip.
to say.
Yeah. But and then said all this bullshit anyway. But
Yeah.
so good catch, bad decision making, which does feel like Skip Bayless. Two, also with all of this happening, I think this is a good section to also point out, like, often what happens with complaints like this is, why'd you wait so long? How's the detail? Another good section to remind, this feels clearly like something that was previously reported, due to all the detail and different pieces. So it's, I don't think it's a lack of attempting to report. I think the concise nature of this report in the consecutive days, I think that's a piece of that, is this was probably already reported in some way, and she doesn't find that they responded to it, which also makes sense. I also think in all this, there's going to be a lot of focusing on, did that payment ever get thrown out there? Other things. I think the grossest part that feels like it happened in all of this is the implication that there will be consequences if you don't have sex with me.
Yep. Yeah, he's using his power as a way.
100%.
And I mean,
and even if you're not sleeping with Shannon Sharpe, I'm going to say you are, which, by the way, he comes out later to say a bunch of shit about Shannon Sharpe, whether it's true or not. So I do believe that could have been on the table as well.
Again, truly speculation. I believe he does believe she's sleeping with Shannon. I believe it's because the Dixon guy told him, which is what is alleged in this. So, either that happened because he wanted this chick fired because she knew that he was doing all this shit to other women. So Dixon's just trying to figure out how to get this girl fired, basically. And it seems like that Peretti lady, her job is to get this girl fired, it feels like. She's targeted because of her ethnicity and disability. All this is, English isn't her first language. People are making fun of that. Joy Taylor is now making fun of that. Now that she knows more, Joy is no longer on friendly terms with her. And because of her PTSD, she starts humming just out of nowhere. That's a way for her to cope. She doesn't know she does it. Happens more when she's stressed. And Joy is now saying how much she hates it, even though everybody knows about it. And then now Joy is saying she needs a black hairstylist because this woman doesn't know how to do black hair. And we need to remind everybody, Joy specifically requested her to do her hair years ago. She's been doing hair on her the entire time. So that's clearly a lie. That's all this section is, essentially.
Yeah,
a lot
correct.
Of that.
Yep, a lot of that, and a lot of, harassment type behavior, which, is one of the allegations in there. So
right, 2023. So you can see how recent this gets. Miss Peretti, again, this is the lady who has some authority, but it seems like her only job is to get the hairdresser fired.
Yeah.
She went into her office, said Miss Taylor, Joy Taylor doesn't have any more need for her as a hairstylist. Explained that she was to work only 4 hours and then go home, essentially. When the hairdresser said, I thought I was supposed to do touch-ups, the lady said she's spoken to all of the talent and there's no more need for touch-ups. Asked if she did something wrong. And then Miss Peretti said, you remind me of my dog. When I take my dog out, he barks at bigger dogs like you. And then apparently the hairdresser cries and says, because that's the most offensive insult, is to call somebody a dog. I think she missed the point. She's not calling her a dog. She's just saying she doesn't understand her role, essentially. She's saying, know your role and shut your mouth.
I think it can be in the midst of these other allegations. I agree with you that it's not as damning as some of the other stuff, but it can be hurtful to be like, they made a comparison to me of a dog. I also, the only thing I was going to say there with this section is some of these allegations are weaker than others in terms of outcome, but I think some of that is like, I turned all of this in and nothing happened with any of it, so I'm resubmitting it here.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The important part about this is, one, she continues to get harassment about who she is, essentially.
From seemingly everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. seemingly everybody. This section I feel like does not paint her well.
No, correct. Yeah.
Well, no, I just mean like, oh, this part right here. This whole thing is about how she's getting targeted because she can't speak English well. This is from her diary with a bunch of typos. So maybe she can't speak English very well. I'm just saying that shouldn't have been included.
Yeah.
But
maybe it illustrates her point. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Not her fault.
In this part, the big thing is she spoke to everybody. Nobody needs touch-ups. Later on, this turns out to not be true. She, again, is just systematically reducing her role in order to fire her. Because later on, whether we talk about it or not, everyone's saying, hey, why aren't you here for touch-ups? We want you to do stuff. And then she's like, oh, apparently there's a miscommunication because she spoke to everybody about it and said nobody did. This turns out to be a lie. That's the biggest part of that.
Yeah.
She participates in an internal investigation only to be singled out, taken off a speak, and then accused of having sex with Skip. So Miss Drucker, as Fox's vice president of employee relations, had a meeting, asked if Joy was sleeping with Acho. She admitted the two were doing that. Didn't think it was a big deal because they had similar amounts of power. Didn't think he would physically harm her or anything like that. Acho was respectful to the hairdresser, never threatened her, yada, yada, yada. So she's just giving information in the section, basically making it known how much she actually knows, which makes her a bigger target, obviously. Unnamed person making public comments, accused her, asked her if she made public comments about Dixon and Taylor having sex. She became very scared because he had previously assaulted her, stuff like that. Everyone at the company knew about the relationship. She didn't think any information, coming out was new and stuff like that. She began crying. Investigation regarding her humming, apparently, because everyone's complaining about it, essentially just Joy Taylor. Miss M threatening to kill her. That was the person at the table who called her a Persian bitch. People mocked her language. Basically, everything is coming out to HR once again, essentially. Yada, yada, yada. Miss Peretti, evil lady, again, told 8 of her co-workers to not talk to the hairdresser because she has a pending case with HR. She was confused because she didn't think there was a pending case, because all she was asked about was Joy Taylor sleeping with Dixon and Acho. Okay, on October 21st, that Miss Drucker lady asked Skip for a meeting. Skip arrived. Skip told Skip right away not to worry, his job is safe. They began interrogating him, asked if he had a romantic relationship with the hairdresser and whether she offered him sex. Skip answered truthfully, said that she never offered him sex. They again said, hey, your job is not at jeopardy here, wink, wink, heavily implying to him that they wanted him to say, hey, she was actually being inappropriate with him instead of the other way around. For 20 minutes, he just said, the truth. Mr. Dixon asked Skip and asked why he didn't just lie about it. Yeah. Skip said that he cares about her. Dixon said, who cares? I can get you a better looking hairstylist. So again, evil, sexual deviant. Skip is standing up for her. Is it because he actually cares about her? Is it because he just wants to have sex with her? That is up for you to decide. But Skip is essentially telling the truth instead of just easily getting her fired.
And the implication is that she heard this from Skip, right? I assume.
Yeah.
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 So
later on they talk about that.
Clarify that. Yeah. So
that's true. She learns that that Mr. Dixon wants her fired. So Skip learned that Sharp and her never actually had sex. And so that's good.
Confirmed.
So confirmed. Skip pulled her aside. He had to have asked Shannon, I guess.
Yeah.
Skip pulled her aside, apologized for accusing her of that, disclosed his meeting with HR, which is the one we just talked about, discussed that Mr. Dixon wants her fired because she knew too much and she was talking about it. Skip also said Mr. Dixon kept his wife on payroll to keep her silent about his affairs with employees, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Then, so good guy Skip in a way. And then Skip says, hey, do you want to go out to dinner and keep talking about this?
Yeah.
And then she said no. October 18th, Skip told her that Mr. Dixon was continuing to push him to ask for a different hairstylist, but Skip refused. So again, Skip's like, hey, I have your back. You know, again, using his power, saying,
please sleep
without
with
me, there's nothing. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
She wrote in her diary, I feel desperate, don't know how to save my job. Mr. Dixon's the big boss. I'm a hairstylist with no power. Skip said that Joy is telling Mr. Dixon to get rid of him or rid of her. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
A couple days later, Skip told her again that Mr. Dixon threatened Skip's job because he continuously requested her, stating that he would rather have another pretty girl over Skip on Undisputed. So Dixon's trying to replace Skip now at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Month later, Skip told her that he loves her and that Mr. Dixon was the one that told him that she's sleeping with Shannon Sharp. So Dixon's stirring the pot. Skip loves this lady, apparently. She told Skip that she's only interested in a professional relationship and being a friend. Yeah.
He said,
Fox
you have no idea you're losing everything. Just want to highlight that of like, it kind of ends on another threatening statement. Yeah.
Another threatening statement is what it is. Skip's just saying, without me, you got nothing. You're a single mom. You know, hey, I got this big sum of money, apparently, if you sleep with me.
Yeah.
So she supported a coworker in another racist thing. Is what it is. Just more systematic racism and discriminatory things going on. And then eventually now she's fired. We're talking about June 24th, 2024. So very recent here, half a year ago. She found out that Undisputed was going to be canceled and that Skip was going to be fired. She grew anxious that Dixon was just trying to get her fired. Later that week, she was giving Skip a haircut. During the haircut, Skip said he has a new opportunity he was expecting outside of Fox. She asked if he was going to come back to Undisputed. He replied, of course. Bayless then told that he fantasizes about having sex with her, how much money it would take for her to have sex with him. She said that she already refused $1.5 million. Her answer was not going to change. Skip said, the more you say no, the more I want you. Crazy.
They literally, it's like a seminar. It's like,
I know,
here's all the things terrible people say.
That's why it's like, this is a cartoon. It's like, it's turned up to 11, like the worst versions of everybody here, or the most innocent version of everybody.
It's what happens when nothing's addressed, right? Like we just keep coming to the same behavior.
True. August 2nd, so a couple months later, Undisputed canceled, Skip fired. She was taken off the schedule. Evil Lady said the hairdresser, there's no longer a need for the hairdresser. Skip asked her to walk him to his car on the way out. She felt she had no other choice but to do so. At the car, they noticed Mr. Dixon was in the parking lot looking at them. And Skip said to her, I assume loudly, but who knows, fuck Mr. Dixon. If you want to sue them, go for it. Fuck them. He's not going to sleep tonight. Mr. Dixon's not. Mr. Dixon's scared of what I'm going to tell you. Fuck him. So no, Skip has a vendetta against that guy.
Yeah.
She reached out to Fox, asked why she was taken off the schedule. She explained that even though Undisputed was canceled, she had worked for the Herd for 5 years, Speak for 1 year, and people continue to request her. Fox did not bring a response, but they said they would investigate the issue. Again, talent asked for her to give him a haircut. And so she's like, I don't know what to do. I'm not on the schedule. I'm not getting paid. Contacted Fox saying, hey, this guy wants me to give him a haircut. Fox did not say anything, just said they're going to investigate it. A few days after that, after finishing their investigation, Fox was able to provide that they can only afford one hairdresser to work on all 3 shows, and Fox systematically refused her work schedule, terminated her employment, and removed her using fabricated business necessities as a pretext, essentially. So what we talked about before,
Yeah.
they just slowly reduce the role until she's no longer important. And that's about it. She's going through fit therapy. She is like dumping all this stuff out. Following her departure from Fox, Skip began featuring his wife on his podcast. The belief is that he changed his cell phone number. I don't know why this is included without actual like evidence, but maybe there is evidence. The belief is that he changed his cell phone number to remove all of the sexual texts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about it. Talent continues to request her at Fox. And then she cites this Twitter post, which I don't think is relevant, but she said Colin Cowherd, worst person in the lawsuit, tweets out if he should get a haircut. 63% of people think he should. And I don't know why that supports her case, but apparently it does. So a lot of interesting things here.
Yeah. I think the only interesting thing there is I think there's a route this goes where Cowherd and others at Fox could end up calling out some of the things that have been happening. That could be a wink, wink,
Yes.
nudge of like, I'm publicly trying to, maybe without getting into the allegation side of things, that's Cowherd being like, it is a BS reason you were fired. Like, I literally need a haircut.
Yeah. Yeah.
It kind of reminds me. It kind of reminds me when no one gave. So sorry, I'm always terrible with names. Who's the current Vikings defensive coordinator?
Flores.
When no one gave Flores any interviews, and Bill Belichick happened to like leak a text thread that was like congratulating the wrong Brian.
Congrats on the Giants job. I didn't get that job. All right, cool. Okay, well,
yeah, it seems like maybe a little bit of a. All right, here's for your court filing.
Yeah, I mean maybe that's very true. But yeah, so again, this lawsuit, the majority of it is actually the class action for a bunch of employees for not paying wages, systematically reducing stuff like that. Blah 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 blah. Gary said, "More shocked that Skip ain't gay." There's such a thing called a beard. So, I mean, that's not out of the question yet. Who knows? But obviously, this is being framed as a Skip Bayless lawsuit. I think he's certainly a part of this, right? He's the biggest name in this. But the biggest villain, Mr. Dixon,
correct.
He's the worst person. Bobby Diaz is second. That guy is fired. He is going to be fired. And then Joy Taylor is using everybody over at Fox, sleeping her way to the top. And I don't know. It feels like Dixon has to be out. Bobby Diaz is going to be a scapegoat for sure. Joy probably out. Don't you think? Like, why would somebody keep her around?
I think there's a world. Listen, I think there's a world where she's for sure out of this. I honestly think it depends on the order of what happens, because I could see definitely it's like Charlie Dixon is going to want her out.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, she has no friends there at this point. Then
correct, but if he goes first, do they keep her? I think I agree that she's probably out. The only thing I'm leaving open there is she going to be part of different parts of this lawsuit? Weirdly, on the other end, because she cited her own allegations.
She'll try.
For sure. So, but I still think that sees her probably not with the company, but we'll see. I mean, who knows what a big uproar this is. You mentioned this earlier, so I'm just going to tie a bow on it. This is obviously, I think most people have already connected these dots, right? Like, not the first where smoke there's fire with Fox at a large glance, and not even Fox Sports. I got the name while you were talking. Jamie Horowitz is the former executive who hired Charlie Dixon.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he was dismissed amid sexual assault allegations. And then obviously history of Fox News and larger Fox products of allegations in the same realm as well. So this all ties back to, I think, in terms of demonstrating a culture, I think most people were probably, it sucks. I heard this and I was like, yep, that's real. I like heard all of this and I was like not surprised, which freaking stinks. I also think
Mhm.
like the fact that leaving her job was not an option and like that wasn't gonna, she needed the job. Like,
Right, right, yeah. I mean, she was in term like the underlying theme here is power dynamic, right? Like
correct.
she had zero power, she needs this, and everybody else has full power over her.
Yeah. Yep, and the fact that I'm assuming that many more allegations are going to come out connected to this, or at least more details about the class action parts of
Yeah,
this, and what those highlight. I don't necessarily know
yeah.
if this is going to be a string of 10 other women come forward, but I do think that it could be you know
There's they also mentioned later in the lawsuit like instances of other things happening, not necessarily there. I think there's one more Fox one. There was an NFL Network one where they like accused certain people. This is like old shit, right? Like other people who have. Do I got it here? I don't. But um, it seems like certainly women in sports, right? That's always a
correct.
conversation. It seems like if the woman isn't being the victim in terms of being passed around as a scoreboard, then they are the fucking problem and sleeping their way to the top. Like there's always something wrong about something at this point, which is an interesting way to frame everything. I'm almost wonder like Fox has an easy out here with the class action stuff, at least with her. Like she got hurt, she was replaced, she came back, and her role wasn't very big. So I almost wonder how much, like how far this is even going to go. Like from
Yeah,
Fox's point of view, there's a lot of things they can just be like, hey, this is the facts, and
correct.
we're not going to pay two people to do one person's job.
Yeah,
Like
100%.
Fox is an easy out.
I also think there's so much in this. I mean, this is heading towards settlement, and we won't
For
really.
sure.
I think that's where this wraps up. So I think they have some outs in terms of the wrongful termination allegations.
Yeah.
I think the piece that feels like is provable because it's such a clear part of this, but maybe it's not, is what's not shown in this allegation is I'm assuming she has proof of like you're making up the fact that you could, like, did they hire two more hairstylists the next week? Something like that. Like that's not included here, but that feels like you waited 8 days to give me a reason. I have all this evidence showing that you were looking for reasons to fire me ahead of time. Does that also blow in the wind? Like they hire more hairstylists a month later.
I think there might be something about that. Um, I'm not sure where it is. I feel like that was actually stated in this
Yeah.
because August 6th, finishing investigation, they fired her. Said that there wasn't guided by his attorneys. Fox then implemented a revised schedule, assigning a single hairdresser to cover all three shows for approximately 3 months. There we go. So they did a new schedule after she was out, put one hairdresser on all three shows that we talked about for 3 months. Once Fox believed that was enough time to justify actions from a legal standpoint, they reverted to their long-standing schedule, which included one hair and makeup person in the morning and then another in the afternoon, which is what it was before.
Yeah.
So they only did the one person for 3 months, and they're like, oh, okay, that's enough. Legally, you can be like, hey, then there's a new need, and then they brought in another person. So
but that would be the only thing. If it hits court, they'll have to prove financial strain for those 3 months, and maybe they're able to. So, but
I mean, COVID. I mean, you can just put
yeah.
it on that, I guess.
So, we're making less money. Skip's not here, so
honestly, yeah.
So, I don't know. It's all of it's gross. I think it's wild. It's like there's almost no one at Fox that wasn't mentioned.
I never know his name. The guy who
Nick
loves
Emmanuel.
LeBron. Who?
Nick Emmanuel, is that his name? Nick something?
Nick something. I can't remember his name. It's Emmanuel Acho.
Nick Wright.
Nick Wright, yeah. He wasn't mentioned. I wish he was. Like,
I almost mentioned that at one point of like if Nick Wright pops up here.
yeah, what did he do?
We gotta look talking about the Chiefs, but
true. Yeah.
A lot of the big names are in here, so I think there's that, and like also like again the power dynamics, but also just I think it's literally impossible to report anything here. That's the other thing coming up is like I can't get Bobby Diaz fired.
We get he somehow he feels the most safe out of anybody because he supplies cocaine. That's it.
But it's like that part is striking to me of like that and other things to you kept saying cartoonish, which is so correct of like I want to advocate for these other things, and Skip Bayless is my biggest ally in some of this, and he keeps inviting me to his car for sex.
Skip, pick a new meeting point.
Allegedly. Yeah, it's
we're vibing so well right now. I'm telling you all this stuff. We should go to dinner and just keep the conversation going. No, Skip. You were almost the good guy in the story. Stop it. No.
Just I know. And several times being like, don't worry, I got your back. Do you have my front? Do you I heard you're not having sex with Shannon.
We should hug it out. I don't know. Like, is this weird? Are we feeling the spark too? Skip, come on. I do. The thing with Shannon makes it the most believable thing of all time.
100%. Calling Shannon his most hated adversary and arch rival. Well, they are still on TV together for another year.
God. I mean, that part of the conversation we should be able to assume is word for word because she recorded it. So like she should have that recording. So maybe that's why that was so detailed and hit Skip's tone so perfectly because we could listen to it.
Yeah, repeating bullshit 8 times in a row.
Bullshit. You fucked him, my arch rival.
Being told that, and like those parts are maybe going to be the most legally damning. Some of the parts that Skip will maybe. It'll be interesting when this hits. Now, will Skip still enforce some of those things, like everything he heard from Charlie Dixon, everything, hearing that of like, if Skip co-ops this in sense of, Dixon came to me and said, why wouldn't you just lie about this? That's done. Mm-hmm. That part's over. Like if Skip comes out and is like, that's a real conversation that happened, then that would be the end of Dixon. But we'll see if that still gets defended in that way when it's baked into all the allegations about Skip. We'll see.
And Skip could argue that wasn't me. That was Drip Bayless. There's two different people. Drip Bayless does what he wants, says what he wants. He's a money maker. He's a money mover. Skip Bayless went to bat for her. Drip Bayless wanted to be in her. 2 different people.
I also, hold on. When did Skip go to Fox Sports?
Fox? I mean, it was in there. So she was there already, I believe, once he arrived.
Yeah. I 100%. You're going to know what I mean right away when I say this. Yes, September 2016. So this is essentially not new news. I just wanted to make sure I was getting my facts right. The whole time. This is essentially like day one, the last day, this was happening. There was never a moment where Skip was part of Fox Sports that this person was not.
Correct.
Which is also like, what are we doing? So that's also, it's baked in, right?
It's
not a bug of the system, a feature of the system, it seems.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's allegations going back far before Skip. With that, the Mr. Dixon saga started before Skip was there.
Correct. Jamie Horowitz hired him in like 2017. So
earlier, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe not, but
hold on. When was that? No, he left in 2017. Gotcha. 2015, he hired him. So again, this system kind of seems to match up with that. So, and that's the big expansion of Fox Sports. I mean, that's when that's all building up. So I think the 2 things are very, very intertwined. And then Shannon Sharpe would go on to leave and have a live sex celebration.
And Skip's like, is that with her? No, it's not. Okay, cool.
It's unreal. And like, by the way, obviously all of this coincides with the racism allegations Shannon has made as well. Both
Yeah.
publicly and privately. So it's gross. In terms of what happens next, that was my only other question. Do you think that part where it's basically tying together, it feels a little bit of a stretch where she's basically maybe laying the groundwork. I also think maybe they fired Skip because he was defending me.
Yeah.
Feels a bit
Like,
of a stretch, but like, I wonder if that could be a route this goes. If it's like Skip thought he was going to come back, that seemed to be true in real life. And
that's exactly what that says. She found out supposedly that Undisputed wasn't getting brought back.
yeah,
She then meets with Skip and says, "Hey, I have this other stuff happening outside." Then she asked specifically, are you coming back to Undisputed? He said, "Of course." But also during this entire thing, yet Mr. Dixon keeps saying, please lie about this stuff so we can fire her. Skip continues to say, no, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to do this. And then Dixon threatens Skip's job, according to Skip. So,
yeah.
For sure, like the groundwork is laid that Skip somehow was fired because of this as well, which is insane if true.
Yeah, and also what a good maybe bow on all of it, which is how complicated when you really get into it. Like Skip Bayless is one of the prime, alleged figures in this, and he may have also lost his job for failing to defend some of the behavior. Like it's like Skip Bayless, perpetrator of behavior, may have been let go partially because he was unwilling to help her get fired.
Well, I think that's for sure true. It comes down to who knows information about the wrongdoings of everything, and who's willing to play ball. And at that point, when Skip wasn't willing to lie anymore, it seems like he wasn't willing to play ball and cover up all the bad shit. And that's when you become disposable.
God,
and that's why no wrongdoing by Colin Cowherd. He's just like floating around here and has not heard anything. He has not heard anything. He's covering up.
I think that's worth looking into. I think it's worth looking into. Right now, I'm gonna believe when the victim involved is like the one person she's saying don't go after. For now, I'm gonna call off the dogs.
All she's saying is
good guy.
She used the wrong words. She's just saying he was nice to me. He didn't make fun of my accent, but he's been there long enough.
Yeah,
he did something. You know what I mean? He dapped up Mr. Dixon every time he saw him.
Yeah. I mean, listen, that's the real thing. Acho's mentioned in this. Who didn't know about this? I think that's very real.
Well, apparently she's been there for a decade and doesn't know Acho works there. So on one hand, everybody knows everything, but on the other hand, nobody knows anybody. So,
at least the people not in power. I can somewhat see that in the sense of she's trying to go to work, man. She's trying not to she's trying just to do people's hair. So I don't know. And also, this is obvious, but I'm going to say it because we're talking about it now and it's a good connection to make. It is gross that everything we've said was a part of the Bill O'Reilly allegations. Everything that's come up, it's God damn, Fox. Why is this all the same thing?
Well, here's the thing. And it does also feel like the same thing with Fox. It feels like all the same thing everywhere. And I think that's
such a good point. That's such a good point. Yeah. I'm with not our one area of sexual harassment allegation happening. So
seems like for some reason everywhere where there's people in power and people just trying to cut it.
Yeah.
There seems to be a power dynamic issue.
Yes. And somehow it's never reported accurately.
For some reason, the people in power who are the evil geniuses, they nail their HR hires. They nail it. Like they never fuck that up. They somehow are always subservient, just like perfect. They play ball all the time. I don't know how that is. Like the HR people, there's no moral compass with the HR hires ever.
I'm sorry I just made that noise into the microphone. I couldn't contain it. This is not what this is about. This is going to feel like a pot shot, but it's worth noting because my point was going to be, it also seems like all of the consequences for these folks are temporary. And to make that point, I was like, I wonder what Jamie Horowitz is up to right now.
What is it?
President and co-founder of Omaha Productions.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It's all everywhere, man. It's like, try finding someone who's not involved, and that's not a defense of it, but it's like, it just doesn't go away. I don't, that's not an allegation on the Mannings or anything there, because I haven't looked into it enough, but it doesn't, I knew he was going to be somewhere.
Right. Yeah. That's interesting.
It bums me out that it wasn't just ESPN again, so I could hit him with a stick. But
I know
because I
Eli keeps him in line, though. You kidding me? Archie's probably Archie would fucking kick his ass if anything happened.
Yeah, and listen, I don't know enough about it. I don't know the vetting and even what he was fully held accountable for. So
truly don't know.
Yeah, but just an example of pick a name from this and see where they work in 2 years.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Who's not a woman?
Well, true.
Joy Taylor may never work somewhere again.
I think she will, because even like Aaron Andrews is doing stuff. But usually, here's the thing. Usually, it's like you get in trouble for this stuff at ESPN, and then you go to Fox. So now, if you get in trouble with this at Fox, you go to the stadium or something like that, or you go up to Canada or something.
I'm telling you, Sage Steele, come home. We're better now.
So you're correct that everyone here, like, you can't truly get canceled when people are just going to continue to listen to you or see you. But Skip now, though, is this the end of Skip? Because that's a possibility because of his age and because of his character. Like, I'm talking the character he plays. Like, this coming out doesn't really work with that.
No one liked working with him anyway. Like, that's another mix of this. It's not Saint Skip. So I think so, unless he finds the right friend to play ball with and like hits that off. But he's already like, it is the end of Skip on cable television. But like, his show will remain. He's got his podcast.
Sure.
It's hard to tell what's going to break waves with like his audience. Like, I could see people who have decided to stick with him after all of the Shandon stuff, I think are going to look at this and probably point out the parts where Skip was good guy.
Yeah. I mean, there are parts. That's why it's like Skip did 2 wrongs and then 1 right every step of the way.
It's also, I'm not saying this is nothing. I'm just saying that this is part of the playbook, and it's sad that it is part of it. I unfortunately think Skip's going to get on the show with his wife. And his wife's going to be like, we're good. And everyone's going to be like,
that was mentioned.
100%. But I'm just pointing it out of like, same thing that happens when, to mention a guy who's also in the news, when Tyreek Hill was receiving allegations and other football players of hitting women, then that person comes forward and says, well, it happened, but I'm cool with it. And everybody moves on. And it's not, the behavior isn't any better, but like there's a victim mentality that perpetuates that. And we stay here. Like, Skip's wife's going to come forward and be like, who hasn't Skip slept with? We're going to be like, oh, good.
Skip needs to, is Skip's wife going to be his new debate partner? Because she's the new arch rival, arch enemy.
Yeah. Maybe. He only has relationships with people he also hates. I don't know.
Yeah.
And also, I guess the only thing I know in this is that Skip wasn't having an affair. So I'm not going to allege anything so far because he was trying.
That's true. He tried. That's all he has to say. I did not sleep with her. What do you want me to do?
100%.
I tried.
Yeah.
Did my best.
Yeah, true. So don't let me. I'm going to retract that. I have no idea if Skip is having an affair. I know an attempt was made, but
That's true. You know what? Honey, I didn't do it. I offered $1.5 million. I sacrificed our future.
You can read this whole document where she says it doesn't happen.
True. And Shannon, same thing, apparently. Allegedly.
Yeah, true. Only one who says it happens is freaking Mr. Dixon. Also, can we get names that aren't Bond villains?
Yeah, I know. Come on.
Skip Bayless and Charlie Dixon. Like, it's like we're gonna go through the Joy Taylor. You know, it's literally a script of Friday Night Lights. Anything we want to highlight here that we haven't covered? This is, by the way, as we've been talking about this, thanks everyone who's listened. I mean, we've been laughing through it because there's a lot of extremes here. I mean, I'll end on the part that is hopefully obvious, but it's good to be blatant with it. My heart and support goes out to the folks who are reporting this and going through it, and the folks who are currently there too scared to report it, and going through similar things in other companies. This sucks. I hope whatever happens next advocates for folks to feel like we're reporting things. And I also encourage, as we learn more details about this, that you've made good points going through this. There's no lawsuit like this where every part is validated, and that doesn't mean that it wasn't worth making. I think that's going to be the part that gets blown up, is like, let's say Skip never made a $1.5 million offer, or there's no verification of that.
Yeah.
And then everything else is settled. Well, then something still happened. So, like, let's give credence to the behavior that's happening here, the root of it, because that's clearly present. But I'm just sorry that this had to reach this point. And God, I can't believe Skip Bayless has been on our TVs for 20 fucking years.
Probably more, right? Or is it only 20?
No, more than that. When was his freaking Jordan article?
It all goes back to that, yeah.
I'll look that up, but that's early 2000s. So
as much as we hate him, I do love Skip Bayless. I mean, he serves it. He's probably served his purpose. We can probably be done with Skip Bayless, but boy, there's plenty of Skip Bayless moments I will look back on fondly, and this is all par for the course, in my opinion. It is what it is. But yeah, that lawsuit, again, it was a cartoon. Everyone's personalities were turned up to 11. I think everything's valid in there. I think everything was exaggerated to a little bit of a degree. Did Skip offer $1.5 million in earnest? Probably not. Did he offer money to sleep with her? Probably. Like, that's what we have to like think about for all this. Was that one lady who stood up and called her a Persian bitch and threatened to kill her with a glass? Did that happen? That one seems pretty true, because she was also fired for being unhinged and stuff like that. So a lot of interesting stuff.
And to that point, just to finish on it, for all of the reasons we've mentioned, both on screen and off screen, Skip Bayless is everywhere. Every sports company has 5 Skip Baylesses now, even if
and a Mr. Dixon.
And a Mr. Dixon. Oh God, you could Google who the Mr. Dixons are. It's a bummer. I can search the title.
And the Joy Taylors also seem, unfortunately, very obvious as well.